My fiancé promised to care for my daughter, then left her alone like she wasn't even family. You ever have that feeling in your gut where something seems off, but you tell yourself you're overthinking it? That was me. For weeks. Until the night I came home from a 12-hour shift and found my 10-year-old daughter, Avery, still in her pajamas, sitting on the couch, eating cold takeout alone in the dark. And that was the moment everything changed. But let me back up a bit. I'm Jason, 39, single dad to Avery since she was 3. Her mom, well, she pieced out of our lives the minute real parenting kicked in. No calls, no birthdays, no check-ins. Just vanished. Lucky for us, Linda, my ex-mother-in-law, stepped up in ways I'll never forget. She lives 15 minutes away and is the kind of grandma every kid deserves, steady, warm, and always ready with snacks. I work emergency maintenance for a plant near Dallas. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Avery's world has been stable, safe, quiet, and I've done everything I can to keep it that way. Then Jessica happened. 4 years ago, we met at a friend's cookout. She was 33 then, smart, funny, and had this gentle energy that felt like calm after a long storm. She also had 2 daughters, Kayla, 15 now, and Maddie, 12, from her previous marriage. They split custody weirdly. Jessica had them from January to June. Their dad, Mark, got them the rest of the year. At first, Jessica was incredible with Avery. Sweet, supportive, like a puzzle piece we didn't know we were missing. Avery warmed up to her fast, and honestly, so did I. By year 3, we were engaged. And by last September, Jessica and her girls moved into my house. That's when the cracks started to show. We live in a modest 3-bedroom place just outside Fort Worth. Nothing fancy, but it's home. Avery's had her own room since she was out of diapers. It's her space. Posters on the wall. Blanket fort corner. That room is her anchor. About 2 months after they moved in, Jessica brought up a new arrangement. She wanted Kayla, her eldest, to have her own room. That meant Avery would have to share with Maddie. I told her flat out, no, before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. It wasn't about favoritism. It was about stability. This was Avery's home. Uprooting her to appease someone who's only here half the year? Not happening. I could tell Jessica didn't like the answer. She kept bringing it up, kept twisting it like I was being unfair to Kayla. Eventually, she dropped it. But something in her energy shifted after that, something quiet, resentful. We were polite, but not close. Her tone got clipped, conversation shorter. And then came the night. It was a Saturday. I got called in for an emergency 12-hour shift. These happen, burst pipes, electrical fires, you name it. Usually, when I work long days, Avery stays at Linda's. But Jessica told me not to worry. I've got her, she said. We'll have a quiet night at home. That was around 7 a.m. I didn't get home until 9:30 p.m. As soon as I walked in, I knew something was wrong. The lights were off except the TV. Avery was on the couch, hugging a pillow, wearing the same pajamas she had on when I left. A takeout container sat in front of her, unopened, cold. I crouched next to her. Hey, kiddo, where's Jessica and the girls? She shrugged. They went out. Said they'd bring dinner. I blinked. They left you here? Alone. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. I think they went to that mini-golf place. I stared at her, trying to make sense of it. The woman who insisted she'd stay home just left my daughter alone for hours to take her own kids to dinner and games? Jessica walked in at 10:15 with Kayla and Maddie laughing behind her, carrying gift bags and talking about a claw machine. I didn't say a word at first, just motioned her into the kitchen. She followed, acting like everything was fine. What's up? I didn't yell, didn't accuse, just asked, you left Avery home alone for 5 hours? She blinked, like I was overreacting. She had dinner. We brought food. She could have microwaved it. I pointed to the cold container. She didn't, because she's 10, and she thought you were bringing dinner to share. Jessica crossed her arms. Jason, I didn't think it'd be a big deal. She's fine. That's when I lost it, not loud, but sharp. You promised to be here. You offered to watch her. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was you prioritizing your kids and dumping mine. She threw it back at me. Oh, so it's okay when you do things alone with Avery? But when I want a special night with my daughters, it's a problem? I stared at her. Going to the grocery store with Avery isn't the same as dinner and mini-golf. You left a child home alone. She rolled her eyes and muttered, you're being ridiculous. That night, I slept on the couch. Avery didn't say much the next day, just kept close to me. Linda offered to take her for the weekend, and I almost said yes, but something told me to keep her near. And Jessica? She acted like nothing happened. No apology. No remorse. I started wondering, if this is what she does when I'm not around, what else has she done? The next week was a weird kind of quiet. You know that silence where everything looks normal on the outside, but underneath, it's like walking on thin glass? That was our house. Jessica didn't bring up the mini-golf night. Neither did I. But the tension? It was everywhere. Tight smiles. One-word answers. No eye contact unless necessary. We weren't a couple. We were roommates who used to care about each other. Avery noticed, of course. Kids always do. She started spending more time in her room. Wouldn't even come out to watch cartoons with Maddie, which she used to love. At night, she stayed close to me. If I left the room, she followed. That's when I knew this wasn't just about being left alone once. This was deeper. And then, Friday happened. Jessica was taking Kayla and Maddie to the dentist, routine stuff, no big deal. I was getting ready for work when she made a comment by the door. Let's hope Avery doesn't feel left out again. God forbid I take my daughters somewhere without asking permission. Her tone was pure sarcasm. The kind that slices you open and pretends it was a joke. I didn't laugh. Was that necessary? I asked. She shrugged. Just saying. You've been pretty dramatic. I told her what she said was childish, and she snapped. Said I was being controlling. Said I didn't understand what it was like only having your kids half the year. And honestly, she wasn't wrong about that. I didn't know. But that didn't justify what she'd done. That argument ended with her storming out and me gripping the edge of the counter like it owed me an apology. That night, after the girls were asleep, she brought it back up. Not to apologize. To double down. She said she was tired of walking on eggshells around me. That I was making her feel like a bad mother for wanting one-on-one time with Kayla and Maddie. And then came the line I will never forget. Avery's just too sensitive. I'm not trying to be mean, but she acts like the world revolves around her. My heart stopped. That wasn't frustration. That was resentment. Toward a 10-year-old. I asked her, point blank, so your solution is to exclude her? To punish her for being a child in a situation she didn't choose? Jessica's response? You're twisting my words. No, I wasn't. I heard them loud and clear. The next day, I took Avery to the Texas Science Museum. She'd been begging to see the new dinosaur exhibit for weeks. I told Jessica we were going, even invited her and the girls. We'll think about it, she said. But that morning, when I went to wake Avery, I found her crying into her pillow. She didn't want to talk. Just handed me her phone. A message from her best friend across the street. I saw Jessica and the girls at the mall yesterday. They went shopping and saw that new movie. Did you go too? Avery hadn't known. Neither had I. Jessica took Kayla and Maddie out for another fun day and didn't say a word. Not to me. Not to Avery. She lied by omission. When I confronted her later that night, she didn't even flinch. I didn't know I needed permission to go shopping. No, she didn't. But she knew we were planning a family day, and she went out of her way to keep it from us. I told her flat out, this wasn't about mall trips or dentist appointments. This was about respect. If she wanted time alone with her kids, fine. Let's coordinate. Let's talk about it. But don't lie. Don't gaslight. And don't promise to watch my daughter and then leave her alone. She rolled her eyes. You're being ridiculous. So I took Avery to stay with Linda for a few nights. I needed time to think. Avery needed to breathe. That Monday, Jessica stopped pretending. She took more solo trips with her daughters, didn't even tell me where they were going. If I asked, I got vague answers. Just out. To run errands. It's nothing. I felt like I was living with a stranger. Then came the breaking point. I got home early from work on a Wednesday and walked into an empty house, except for Avery, sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. She looked up and smiled like nothing was wrong. Jessica said they'd be back by dinner. It was 6 o'clock. They left at 2:30. I texted Jessica. She replied an hour later, at Kayla's volleyball game. It's been on the calendar for weeks. Except it hadn't. At least not where I could see. And when they got home at 7:30, they were eating ice cream. Kayla still had a cone in hand. No one brought anything for Avery. She didn't say anything, just looked down and picked at her pencil. That night, I sat Jessica down. And I said what I'd been holding back for too long. This isn't working. Avery feels like a guest in her own home. And you're making it worse. She fired back instantly. Accused me of controlling her. Of prioritizing my daughter too much. No woman is going to stay with a man who acts like a single dad first and a partner second, she snapped. And that was when I realized, that's exactly what I am. A dad first. Always. And if that's a deal breaker, so be it. After that last fight, I knew the relationship was headed somewhere ugly. But even then, I still didn't know just how deep it went. See, I thought the worst thing Jessica could do was leave Avery home alone or exclude her from family outings. I was wrong. The worst thing she did was pull my daughter aside when I wasn't around and tell her to keep secrets from me. It started with a phone call from Linda, my ex-mother-in-law, and the closest thing to a steady female figure Avery has. She sounded hesitant, like she didn't want to start something, but couldn't stay quiet either. Jason, has Avery told you about something Jessica said to her? A while back, right after that mini-golf night. I told her no. Avery hadn't said anything. Linda sighed, then said, you need to talk to your daughter. Alone. That night, after dinner, I sat with Avery on her bed. No TV. No distractions. Just the two of us. Hey kiddo, I said gently, Grandma mentioned something about a talk Jessica had with you. When I was in the shower that morning, remember? She hesitated, pulled her blanket up to her chin. She said not to tell you, that it'd just make things worse. My blood turned ice. What did she say, Avery? And then she told me everything. Jessica had pulled her aside, calm, smiling, that fake nice tone that adults use when they're trying to sell something. She told Avery that she needed to understand how things worked in their family, that sometimes, when Kayla and Maddie were around, it was better if Avery didn't make a fuss or expect to be included. She said, it's nothing personal. You just have to be mature and know when to step back. My girls need me more when they're here. She told my daughter, a 10-year-old, that she should stop expecting to be invited, and that making a big deal about being left out was causing drama. And then, worst of all, she said, this is just a little girl talk. Don't mention it to your dad, okay? We don't want to create problems between the adults. Little girl talk. Manipulating my daughter behind my back like it was some cutesy secret. I felt sick. Avery was trying so hard not to cry when she told me, like she was ashamed for keeping it in. I pulled her close and said, you didn't do anything wrong. That's not on you. That's on her. She just nodded against my chest. The next morning, I went straight to Jessica's apartment while Kayla and Maddie were at school. I didn't text, didn't call. I wanted her to see my face when I said it. I stood in her doorway and held out my hand. Give me the ring. She blinked. Wait, what? I know what you said to Avery. You told her to keep secrets from me. You treated her like she was some kind of inconvenience in her own house. She tried to deny it at first, said I was blowing things out of proportion, but then her tone changed. I was just trying to help her adjust. Blended families are hard. She needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her. I looked her dead in the eye. She's a kid. You don't get to teach her humility by excluding her and calling it maturity. Then I told her, calmly and clearly, that it was over. I said, I won't marry someone who manipulates my daughter and treats her like a problem to manage. She started crying, apologizing, blaming stress, custody issues, saying she was overwhelmed and didn't handle things well. I didn't budge, because all I could think about was Avery sitting on her bed, trying not to cry while telling me that someone she trusted had told her to stay quiet. And then Jessica snapped. You're throwing away something good. For what? For a kid who's going to grow up and leave you. I swear to God, I've never been closer to yelling than I was in that moment. But I didn't. I just said, exactly. That's why she needs to feel safe while she's still here. And then I walked out. That night, I told Avery everything. I didn't go into detail, didn't trash Jessica, but I explained that we weren't getting married and that wouldn't be moving back in. Avery looked sad, quiet. She didn't ask a lot of questions, just sat next to me for a long time. Then she whispered, is it bad if I still like Maddie? I don't want her to think I hate her. God, that crushed me. Because this kid, she has more empathy than most adults I know. No, sweetheart, I told her. It's not bad at all. Maddie's not the problem. And she smiled. Just a little. A few days later, Maddie sent Avery a message. Do you hate us now? It broke my heart. These kids, all the kids, were stuck in the middle of adult messes they never asked for. So I helped Avery write back. I don't hate anyone. I just need a little space. Maybe we can still talk sometimes. I like that. No blame. No guilt. Just kindness. Because that's who my daughter is. That's who I'm fighting for. 3 weeks passed after I ended things with Jessica. Our home felt lighter. Still a little quiet, still adjusting, but for the first time in months, Avery seemed relaxed. She was humming again, reading on the couch, even inviting friends over, something she hadn't done once while Jessica and her girls were living with us. I didn't realize how much tension we'd both been carrying until it was gone. We redecorated her room. Bright colors, new posters, some little fairy lights she picked out herself. She started 5th grade at Jefferson Elementary that fall with a new sense of calm. And Linda, God bless Linda, was still over every Sunday night, bringing her famous cornbread and letting Avery talk about science club and dinosaurs for hours. We were getting back to us. And then, one random Thursday in August, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Hello. The voice on the other end was cautious. Hey, Jason? This is Mark, Jessica's ex, the girl's dad. That stopped me cold. We'd only met twice, once during a drop-off, once at a school event. Pleasant guy. We never talked one-on-one. So why now? I know this is strange, he said, but do you have a few minutes? We met that Saturday afternoon. Neutral ground. A bar near the interstate. It felt like a weird blind date, and I didn't know what to expect. Mark ordered a beer, then dove straight in. I heard about what happened. With you and Jessica. Maddie told me. She's upset about Avery. Said things feel weird now. I nodded, waiting. Then he said, I need to tell you something. Something that happened with me, years ago. And that's when the puzzle pieces started falling into place. He told me that during their marriage, Jessica had a pattern. Everything was fine, until it wasn't. She'd build resentment slowly, quietly, then explode when it hit critical mass. And in between, she'd start twisting the story, manipulating the kids, their friends, even him, into believing he was the unreasonable one. She used the girls like pawns, he said quietly. When we fought, she'd tell them I was trying to take them away, that I didn't care about their feelings. Then he dropped the bomb. Apparently, when things were getting bad between us, around the time of the mini-golf incident, Jessica started saying things to Kayla and Maddie. That Jason was unfair, that he didn't love them the same, that Avery was taking over and ruining the family. Worse? She told Zoe, sorry, Maddie, that if she ever wanted to come back to live with her full-time, she'd need to say something about her dad. Nothing serious, just a little lie, Jessica said. Something to convince a court she'd be better off with her mom. Maddie got scared, Mark said. She told her sister. And Kayla told me. He showed me the messages. Screenshot after screenshot. And just like that, Jessica lost custody. Full custody. To Mark. The girls were now living with him year-round. No more joint arrangement. No more bouncing between homes. And Jessica? She hadn't spoken to me since I walked out with the ring. I don't know what I was feeling as I sat there. Shock. Disgust. Relief. Because suddenly everything made sense. The cold comments, the jealousy toward Avery, the constant pressure to prioritize her daughters while she treated mine like a third wheel. Jessica didn't see families. She saw hierarchies. And when she couldn't be at the top, she started tearing down everyone else. That night, I sat on the edge of Avery's bed while she picked out a book. Hey, I said, what would you think about visiting Kayla and Maddie? Not today, but maybe in a few weeks, if they wanted to see you. Her eyes lit up. Really? I nodded. Mark and I talked. I think we could set something up. Somewhere fun. San Antonio, maybe. Avery grinned. They have the best tacos. It had been almost 6 months since Jessica moved out. Avery and I had our rhythm back. Weekdays were filled with school drop-offs, takeout nights, science club meetings. Weekends were for baking disasters, movie marathons, and the occasional trip out of town. Life wasn't flashy, but it was solid. Peaceful. Until I got another call. And this one was from someone I never expected. Kayla. At first, I thought she had dialed me by accident. But when I answered, she cleared her throat and said, Hey, I wanted to ask something. Can I talk to Avery? I said sure, put Avery on, and left the room. 20 minutes later, Avery came out and said, Kayla wants to meet up. Just to hang out. She misses me. My gut tightened, not because I didn't trust Kayla, but because of who might be behind this. Did she say anything about her mom? I asked. Avery looked confused. No, just that she misses me and Maddie does too. And she said she was sorry. That caught my attention. So I called Mark. He was quiet for a minute, then sighed. I was wondering if you'd hear. Look, I didn't want to stir anything up, but Jessica's been running her mouth. Turns out, Jessica had been telling mutual friends, extended family, even Maddie's old soccer coach that I was the one who ended the relationship because I couldn't handle her daughters. That I was overprotective and unstable and had poisoned Avery against her. She said I had refused to blend the family. That Avery had turned hostile and made her daughters feel unsafe in their own home. She was rewriting the script, playing the victim, and some people were buying it. Mark said he hadn't believed her, not for a second. I lived that story already, he told me. You're not the first man she's blamed. But the worst part? She was telling this to her daughters too. She told Maddie that Avery didn't want to see them anymore. That I was keeping her away. That we blocked their messages and ignored their calls. The only reason Kayla finally reached out? She found a note from Maddie, a printed text from Avery, stuck in the back of her desk drawer. She realized they'd been lied to. That night, I sat down with Avery again. Explained the situation, that Jessica was still trying to twist the story. That she'd told people things that weren't true. Avery just nodded. I kind of figured, she said. She was calmer than I expected. More grounded than most adults would be. I don't hate her, she said. I just don't want to go back to that. Ever. So we agreed. If Kayla and Maddie wanted to keep in touch, that was okay. But only if it stayed safe. Honest. No more triangulation. No more secrets. And absolutely no involvement from Jessica. The next day, I sent Kayla a message. Avery would love to stay in touch. You're welcome to call or text anytime. But for now, we're keeping boundaries with your mom. She replied immediately. I understand. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't know how bad it got. And that hit me. Because nobody really does until it's too late. I got one last message from Jessica a few days later. Email. No subject line. Just 3 sentences. I heard Kayla reached out. I hope you're not putting her in the middle. All I ever did was try to make us a family. I don't deserve this. I didn't reply. Because I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of thinking this was still a dialogue. This wasn't a disagreement. It wasn't a miscommunication. It was a pattern. A destructive one. And I wasn't part of it anymore. I saved everything. The messages. The screenshots. The original texts from Maddie and Kayla. Not because I plan to use them, but because one day Avery might ask questions. And when she does, I'll have the truth. Not my version. Not Jessica's. Just the facts. Because the older she gets, the more I want her to know she's not crazy. She didn't imagine any of it. And she's not to blame. By the time fall rolled around, our house finally felt like home again. No tension hanging in the air. No whispered conversations. No second-guessing my instincts every time I left Avery alone for 5 minutes. Just peace. Every now and then, Avery would mention Kayla or Maddie. Nothing heavy, a song that reminded her of them, or a memory from the mini-golf place she never actually got to go to. And each time, I let her talk. No judgment. Just space. She was still in touch with the girls. Casual texts. A couple FaceTime calls. No involvement from Jessica, per the boundary we all agreed on. And so far, it held. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had done something right. Then came the letter. A certified envelope in the mail, addressed to me in Jessica's handwriting. Inside, a printed, typed apology. Formal. Long. 5 pages. Single-spaced. The kind of letter someone writes because their therapist tells them to, and I mean that sincerely, not sarcastically. Jessica owned it. She didn't blame me. She didn't gaslight or excuse. She said she'd been in therapy for 4 months and had started to see a pattern in herself, one where she prioritized control and validation over people's feelings, over her own kids' feelings, over mine, over Avery's. She didn't ask to get back together. She didn't even ask for forgiveness. Just said, I don't expect you to want me back. I just want you to know I understand now what I did. And I'm sorry. I read the whole thing, front to back, twice. Then I put it in a drawer and left it there. Because honestly, I didn't need closure from Jessica. I had already found it, in Avery's laugh, in her ease, in the way she slept deeper at night now. That's how I knew the damage was healing. One night, after Avery got home from a school event, she asked if she could talk. We sat on the porch, fall breeze coming in, streetlights flickering across the yard. Do you think she ever really cared about me? She asked. I didn't answer right away. Because that's a question that cuts deep, even when it's not about you. I think she wanted to, I said eventually. But wanting to love someone and actually loving them are 2 different things. Avery nodded, looked out at the sidewalk for a long time. Then she said something I'll never forget. I'm glad you picked me. I smiled, choked on it a little. You never needed to be picked, kiddo. You were always first. And I meant it. This whole experience, from the moment Jessica moved in to the moment I took that ring back, taught me something I wish I'd learned earlier. Love isn't enough. Not when it comes to your kid. People will tell you to compromise, to blend, to give it time. And sure, blended families can be beautiful, but only if everyone is respected. Only if every child is safe. And if you're ever in a situation where someone makes your child feel like they're too sensitive, in the way, or not really family, you don't argue. You leave. Today, it's just me and Avery again. The 3rd bedroom, the one that used to be Kayla and Maddie's, is now a guest room / home office / backup blanket fort. Avery's thriving at school. She's joined the robotics club. Still obsessed with dinosaurs. Still drawing on every surface that's not nailed down. As for me, I'm dating again. Slowly. Quietly. No introductions. No keys. Not until I'm sure. Because I made a vow not just to Avery, but to myself. Anyone who walks through that front door has to love her as much as they love me. And if they can't, then they don't stay. If this story touched you, share it with someone who remembers those days too.